Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at Pitafi World. In today's show, we will be taking a look at the recent developments in the country, particularly with reference to what is going on with the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Of course, we've seen over the past couple of days and weeks that a number of leaders of the PTI have resigned and have either announced leaving politics or leaving the party. And of course, this puts into question mark the future of the political party and of course the PTI chairman Imran Khan, where he is also nominated his successors and made some changes within the party as well. At the same time, he has been offering to the government to sit down for negotiations, saying that's the only way forward. Also speaking with reference to the elections, emphasizing once again that there is a need to announce the date of the elections, and also pointing towards how PTI is still the single most popular party in the country and that he is going to win if the elections are announced. This is important in light of what has happened, of course, with regards to the government's efforts prior to May 9th and the stance that we have seen coming in from the political leadership now. Earlier, we saw some remarks coming in from PML-N leaders like Mr. Ishaq Dar, who said that if the PTI chairman took some corrective measures, apologizes to the nation, then perhaps there is a possibility of dialogue with other political leaders such as Saad Rafiq, speaking about how there is absolutely no room for dialogue. Something which was echoed once again by the Prime Minister as well in a recent tweet, where he spoke about how the political process of negotiations and sitting down with political leaders is important and has been the norm. But this situation is different because these are political leaders that have acted as militants, and that these are people who have created violence in the country, and so they just have a garb of politics, and this is not something that is necessary in terms of a dialogue for the political leadership to sit down with, because this is not a political element that they're dealing with. This is important in terms of the future of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and the fact that at the same time, while we're hearing such rejections coming in from the government, the PTI chairman still seems to be forming a committee. A number of the PTI leaders as part of the committee, which are also currently perhaps unavailable in the government, rejecting the stance once again, saying that this is not something that they'll go ahead with. Of course, it remains to be seen whether or not there is any sort of room for that stance to change. At the same time, of course, the executive is also dealing with decisions with regards to the Supreme Court and the issues with the Chief Justice of Pakistan. We've seen previously as well that a number of the directions by the Supreme Court have been rejected unanimously by the Parliament. And of course, with reference to the decisions of the Supreme Court regarding election date, May 14th are still under court decisions. And then we, of course, understand that the important judicial commission that was formed to probe into audio leaks on May 20th by the government was also put on hold by a 5-member bench of the Supreme Court headed by the Chief Justice of Pakistan, to which the government has also filed another petition challenging the formation of the 5-member bench, saying that the concerns with regards to impartiality are there, considering that the audio leaks also involved relatives of the Chief Justice of Pakistan and 2 other senior judges as well. And this is important in terms of what the Chief Justice has also reiterated, that the whole idea behind this restraint is not that the Judicial Commission is going to be stopped from probing. It is that the independence of the judiciary should not be challenged, or that there shouldn't be any rift between the judges, claiming also that the government should have consulted the Chief Justice of Pakistan before the formation of such a commission. So we're going to take a look at all of that as well and try and understand where the situation is leading to and how this is going to factor in with the political dynamics of the country. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi. We've also been joined online by Senator PML-N, Rana Ahmad, who's probably going to join us very soon. And we've also been joined by Barrister Safi, Ghauri, who's a political analyst and legal expert. Thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of the debate. And of course, with reference to what is going on, there are important discussions that we would like to have regarding what is going on within the courts as well. And Barrister Safi, I'm going to start with you in terms of where we stand, particularly when we talk about the different legal proceedings that have been going on with regards to the PTI chairman, and then also the very important proceedings of May 9th. Of course, we've heard again and again coming in from the political leadership that this is something that they're adamant on, that is something that the consequences consequences are going to be meted out to the people responsible. And of course, the political leadership keeps on pointing the involvement of the PTI chairman and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf within this dynamic as well. We also know that the JIT that has been probing May 9th violence, of course, is looking into this, but the PTI chairman again has failed to appear before the JIT and has talked about his security threats and issues and said that this is something that perhaps can be facilitated at Zaman Park residence instead. What do you make in terms of the way that now the huge number of legal proceedings are going and evolving with reference to the PTI chairman, and then simultaneously the issues with regards to May 9th being held by the military courts and the joint investigation team? What sort of mixture do you think this is and how it's affecting the PTI chairman?
Right. So it's very clear, Sana, that because of all of these, the PTI chairman has nowhere to go. He has managed to land himself in a quagmire of legal cases, which would probably leave him with no room to do anything else that he probably wanted to do. But this is not the first time in history that we have seen something. We've seen previous leaders having gone through similar tribulations. Now, in the case of Imran Khan, the only real difference is that previous leaders were actually showing up at courts. They were getting arrested, they would be taken from jail to individual hearings, they would attend those hearings, and sometimes they would have multiple cases. I remember Zardari, when he was in jail, he went through tons of cases. There was not one case that he was going through, which was a part case. There were a variety of cases, and he was being flown all across Pakistan, sometimes to courts in Sindh, sometimes to courts in Lahore, and sometimes here in Islamabad and in Rawalpindi. So Imran Khan's desire that judges should come to him at his Zaman Park residence is something that is unprecedented. But the fact that he's going to cases is in fact a fairly common phenomenon, not just for political leaders, but also for many other Pakistanis. Big companies have cases all the time. So I don't think that's a matter of tremendous concern. In a way, it's a good thing that justice is taking its course. Everybody is being held equally accountable. Everybody has to answer, no matter how popular they are, no matter how much the public likes them. The judiciary, by continuing with these cases, is at the very least, showing that no one is above the law to the extent that they would not be have they would not have a case initiated against them. So that's the only part. But I find it interesting today when Rana Sanaullah said that they have evidence that Imran Khan orchestrated the attack on the Corps Commander's house in Lahore. Now, obviously, I have not seen the evidence myself, so I'm unable to comment on it. But the statement itself is damning, and I say this with a lot of caution. What I'm about to say next is being said with a lot of caution. It is not even a fully formulated personal opinion, but the chain of actions from the audio leaks seem to suggest that that is correct. Why I say this is because if you recall, when the first attempt to arrest Imran Khan took place in Zaman Park, Imran Khan at that point of time formed a committee of 6 members and said that if I am to get arrested, it is these 6 members who know what to do with the country next. Now, leading amongst the committee, and at the time the committee was being announced, was a senior PTI leadership leader named Ijaz Chaudhry. Now, after Imran Khan was subsequently arrested, there's a lot of audios that have been intercepted between Ijaz Chaudhry and a variety of PTI workers. These audio clips were also broadcasted on television networks, in which Ijaz Chaudhry can clearly be seen to be saying that you are to attack the Corps Commander's house and to burn it down. And that that at least creates a circumstantial evidence suggesting that Imran Khan had told Ijaz Chaudhry what the next line of action should be, and Ijaz Chaudhry subsequently carried it out. And this is to be further bolstered by the evidence that today, 101, it's easy to say, but 101 leaders of PTI have left PTI, they've jumped ship. And many of them, whilst jumping ship, are coming forward with testimonies saying that this is not what they signed up for, that PTI is in fact responsible for the May 9th attack, that they do not want to be associated with the party that was involved in such attacks, and that, I mean, as from the various kind of press conferences I've heard, them saying that this was in fact a part of PTI's planning. Once again, it's a tall claim to make. We have clear evidence, but I think we are yet to see how how these things unfold. Imran Khan going to the military courts is, in my opinion, not going to happen because of something that IMF said today. I don't know why IMF has come forward to Imran Khan's rescue the way it has. Pitafi Saab has a choice conspiracy theory on that, which is narrated on a previous show, and I have I've been researching on it. But other than that, it's also very obvious that there is a lot of American pressure, American congressmen, there's some British MPs who have been constantly contacting the Pakistani government, and because of that international pressure, it's unlikely that Iran will try to go to any military courts. I would highly doubt that. Cases would continue, and I think maybe in due time we'll see some judgments coming out of the Al Qaeda trust case, which remains to be highly contentious. Sheikh Rashid also gave a testimony against Shehzada today. Once again, we don't know what Shehzada's testimony is going to be. We do know that Malik Riaz has already given his statement. So these things are yet to be made public. That's one case that I would definitely keep an eye out. And the other important case is the Farrukh case. That is a case that's not getting attention at the moment, but that's a very serious case for people. So these two cases combined together, and I think Khan knows that because Khan has been constantly talking about a -1 formula, telling people what to do if you go away. I feel like he probably understands the kind of legal troubles that he's in at the moment, and perhaps the party does as well, which is why so many party members are coming.
Okay. Okay, let me also welcome in the discussion Rana Maqbool Ahmed Saab, Senator PML-N, who's joined us online. And Rana Saab, we're talking, of course, about where the PTI chairman currently stands, not just in terms of the number of cases against him, but also, of course, in light of what has happened post May 9th. A number of party leaders have left the party. And then, of course, with the way that things are moving ahead, it seems that the current political leadership is no longer willing to engage in dialogue with the PTI chairman, and something that has been stated quite clearly by the Prime Minister in a tweet as well. And I understand that sentiment, but I want to see where exactly will you be able to draw the line, whatever happens, whatever the circumstances, however things proceed. Is this a stance that the PML-N is going to stick to, and there's going to be no room, no option, such as what Mr. Isagdar earlier referred to, that if there is an apology or any sort of corrective action, then dialogue may be able to take place? Do you think that there is any sort of window over there, or do you think that this is an absolute firm stance that the government is going to stick to? Yes, Rana Sahab, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
All right. Did you hear my question?
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can.
Kindly, if you could briefly repeat the question.
Absolutely, sure. My question is with regards to where the stance of the government is with regards to negotiations with the PTI chairman. I understand the Prime Minister has clearly reiterated this in a recent tweet as well, and said that this is not something that is normal in the sense that how the political process goes or how negotiations happen with political elements, because this is not exactly a political element that we're dealing with. And so it seems that there is a firm stance by the government that they will no longer negotiate with the PTI chairman. But then, of course, we've heard statements coming in from Mr. Isagdar saying that if there are corrective measures or if there is an apology, then the possibility of dialogue might exist. Can you help us understand how firm is this stance by the government that they will not talk to the PTI chairman, or if there is any possibility as time goes by that this stance may differ?
Yes, Sana, there is a lot of reluctance and hesitation in the PML-N and PDM cadres to resume negotiations with Imran Khan, because due to his conduct, he has lost total credibility. His volatility of character and his idiosyncratic behavior, that is the great hindrance. Therefore, nobody is prepared to talk to him because he doesn't stick to whatever he says, and generally he betrays everybody and betrays his own commitment. So therefore, at this stage, there is a strong opinion amongst the political hierarchies of PDM that no talks should be held with Imran Khan at all. All the same, they are waiting for the first round of prosecutions. If the cases start and the prosecution is commencing against him, and there look to be some results, therefore they will not try to initiate the negotiations with him. As for the rest of the party cadre of PTI is concerned, there is an opinion that if Shah Mahmood comes forward, or people like him of moderate temperament, so the negotiations will be most welcome. Because Shah Mahmood and other 2, 3 persons who look to be a little responsible and little cultured persons, negotiation can be resumed with them. But Imran Khan himself is a great obstruction. Therefore, at this stage, there is no question of negotiations because the government and the complainants of these cases of terrorism, they are not in a position to give any decision about the negotiations because so much of heinous crime has been committed by him and his cohorts in terms of terrorism, in terms of sacrilege of the sacred places, in terms of causing disgrace and disparagement to the very important installations in the country. He has rather attacked the defense of the country. You think this can be overlooked? It cannot be overlooked. So he has attacked the intelligence agencies, attacked the military installation, he had attacked the very, very respectable signs and symbols of martyrs and the victors like M.M. Alim and like Colonel Shea and others like Aziz Bhatti. So therefore, at this stage, it doesn't look to be possible to resume the negotiations with him. The government and the complainant of these cases will wait for the preliminary results of prosecutions. But all the same, if the party gets ready and as he has nominated a committee, but this committee will not be considered to be nominated by him. The committee will have to work independently without giving the reference of Imran Khan, because if they say that he is their leader and they'll be obeying his directions, nobody will be prepared even to talk to the committee at all.
So but that's only possible if the committee is no longer part of the party, no?
Oh yes, that is possible, but committee.
Okay, we're experiencing some difficulty, but we'll come back to you and I'll get more clarity on that. Farrukh, of course, while all of this is happening, we still keep on hearing from the PTI chairman that there is a need to announce the date of elections and that PTI will emerge victorious. And of course, I understand that this is something that can be just said, but do you think that there is reason for the PTI chairman to say or believe that? And secondly, whether or not there is anything that the PTI chairman can now do to turn the situation around in his favor?
Right, Sana, regarding the possibility of some kind of hope for Imran Khan Sahab, and then the second part was, is there a lever or a reset button? So let me first talk about the first thing. I think it is Imran Khan Sahab who has maneuvered himself into a corner. And this has been happening in the past as well. In 2007-8, he boycotted the elections. In 2014, he ended up in a dharna or sit-in from where he had to be rescued. And after that also we have repeatedly seen that other elements, particularly in your deep state or hard state, had to step forward to rescue him. The only difference at this moment, Sana, is that those people are not there anymore. Those who were direct sympathizers have retired, and those he was actually hoping that they will eventually get some kind of sentiment for him have been totally alienated. So I don't think that Imran Khan Sahab can actually hope that there is going to be somebody who actually steps out of the fog or mist of conflict and rescues him. Regarding the people of Pakistan, there is a very interesting thing that we have not been following. Immediately after he was pushed out of power, he actually ran for a few constituencies and he won, right? Similarly, his nominated, MPA candidate also won in Punjab. But after that, amazingly, repeatedly, whenever there was a possibility of an election, the judiciary especially that is sympathetic to Imran Khan actually kept on stopping that process. So at this moment, we don't know how truly popular he is. Regarding the people who came out on May 9th, remember earlier I heard you asking both the guests whether Imran Khan Saab actually, this boycott of any possible dialogue with Imran Khan is even possible, or can it be sustained for a long time? I think everybody is asking that, right? The answer to this question lies in how do you see May 9th. Before May 9th, I kept on telling you that this metaphor of giving a rope, they were being given rope and eventually they ended up implicating and inculpating themselves. Now the problem is that you can call that a random, set of arson attacks or other kind of attacks, but then they are targets. For example, how many times a corps commander's house has been burned down? Similarly, how many times have you seen that political protesters try to storm the GHQ, the nerve center of Pakistan's army? Similarly, there are intelligence outposts that were raided also. So the question then is, what exactly was May 9th? Was it some kind of arson attack, only anger management issues by a new party which is very emotional? Or was it something bigger than that? I mean, if you listen to the army chief, his statements repeatedly refer to an attempt to drive a wedge between the people of Pakistan and armed forces. And we saw the pictures also of junior Sipahis actually being pelted with stones. With that kind of an attitude, you can understand what he is talking about. Similarly, when the government talks about the possibility of a military coup or attempts or trying to instigate a military coup, that is also interesting, because you must have seen what Imran Khan Saab and his supporters were doing immediately after he came out of power. There were accusations that were leveled against military leadership, not only the past one, but the current one as well. And after that also, there was this matter of Shehbaz Gill, when he actually came on television and said, effectively calling for a colonel's or brigadier's coup. With that kind of situation, the question then is, what exactly were you driving at? Was it some kind of attempt to overthrow not only the order in the country, political order in the country, but also, the military order of the country as well? If that was the case, then it becomes a possibility of instigating a civil war in the country, right? With that kind of a situation, do you think anybody is going to forgive or forget? I think at this moment, whatever the wounds are, they are fresh, but these are the kind of wounds that will keep on getting visible even though they heal, but there will be scars, and those scars will ensure that there is no rapprochement for Imran Khan Saab, at least for the next 3-4 years. That is the window. So eventually I think that there can be, but he's already 70. I don't know how much time can he fight these fights, but right now I think he has actually landed himself. The only concern that I have is this implication that Imran Khan Saab was the only mastermind of whatever plan that was there. If you are trying to orchestrate a kind of civil war or a kind of military coup within the military ranks, then the question becomes, how can you do it without knowing all the atmospherics within the army? So how do you do it? There must be some retired generals, at least some retired officers or intelligence people who must be guiding you or helping you. So are they not accomplices? Are they not also the architect of such a plan? So they should also be brought to the book.
Absolutely, and that's a valid point that you raised. But Farrukh, do you think that the action is going to be taken against them as well?
Uh, I hope so. I think military has its own internal mechanism, and at this moment, I think that even civilians are going to be tried in the military courts. So why would it be that armed personnel will not be, accosted for whatever they have done? There must be some kind of process that must have started already.
Absolutely, there needs to be accountability for all. Rana Sahab, there is also concern being raised with reference to where the PML-N stands in terms of the leadership of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf that is leaving the party, and whether or not they are going to be welcomed within the PML-N. There seems to be a consultative meeting also held within the party where this decision was also mulled over, and it seems that the decision is that a higher percentage is going to be given to the PML-N workers, and that maybe some will be accommodated where it is necessary. Can you help us explain where the current stance is of the PML-N with regards to the leadership that has now left PTI, and how is that going to factor in the next elections?
तुमने कौन सा लगाया ये?
Rana Sahab, can you hear me? I think there seems to be some error, but I believe Rana Sahab is trying to fix that, and we'll come back on this discussion. But Barrister Safi, with reference to what is going on, there is also, of course, simultaneously the kind of rift that we've been seeing for quite some time now with the judiciary and the executive going on. Again, we heard the leader in the House also speaking with reference to how if the authority of the parliament is challenged, they're not going to sit down. And Khawaja Asif, of course, was speaking in the National Assembly about this. But there is also, of course, concern that is being raised with the particular formation of the commission that was looking into the audio leaks. And we've seen that the Chief Justice has spoken about how he wasn't consulted, and that needed to be the norm. And the fact that this is something important in terms of the independence of the judiciary. I want to first understand whether there was anything that was not legally followed in terms of the formation of the commission, and whether or not this was something that was absolutely necessary, that the consultation of the CJP was required. And then the petition that is being raised by the government with reference to the 5-member bench looking into this, and the fact that this can result in impartiality.
Right. So, Sana, I think I'll just echo the words of Justice Qazi Fazisa, who, when was informed that his commission has been stayed, was shocked, and he said that this goes against all legal norms, because when you were to stay something, especially when it comes to a Supreme Court related matter, you are to hear the other party. And Qazi Fazisa dictated an order at that point of time stating that if the Chief Justice had a problem, then he should have heard the commission out, at least try to see what the commission is going to do. The commission had not even started functioning. It was stayed before it conducted its first hearing. And so obviously the commission cannot be stayed simply on the constitution of the bench. If there is a problem on the constitution of the bench, then the Chief Justice was under complete power to call up the commission and ask them why the bench was constituted in the way it was, whether this constitution has, in any circumstance, any infringement of any laws or any constitutional principles. None of these reasons were given by the Chief Justice. And once again, I'll say here, because this was widely reported, that Qazi Fazisa said that, they also understand the law. It's not just Chief Justice. And I think that's really what's happening here, that we're all being taken for a ride by being made to feel like we don't understand what the legalities of anything are, and there's only one person in this country who truly understands what the true interpretation of law is, and somehow we're all blind to it. But that said, staying in the commission and then taking it himself is highly unethical, for the simple reason that it pertains to the audio leaks of the mother-in-law of the Chief Justice. And if it's a common practice, let alone relatives, even if a friend's case comes before a judge, it is legal ethics, and the judge is duty bound to recuse himself from the case, simply because they have a connection with that person. If they have a connection with that person, and if they listen to that case, then they're going to be obviously biased. They're not going to give an unbiased judgment. That is why a judge needs to be by their very nature an unbiased person. But a judge picking up his own mother-in-law's case, and the audio leaks talking about her conversations, not just about the Chief Justice himself, but also with Justice Muneeb Akhtar, referring to other judges, She, in those audio leaks, points out that she has been calling other judges, and they've been sending her emojis and thumbs up, all those blinking emojis. When we're talking about very frank conversations like these between people, thinking that the Chief Justice himself is the only person who can adjudicate upon such a matter is against every legal principle that at least I have studied. I cannot, for the life of me, understand how this can continue. And so I applaud the government's restraint, and I applaud the government's um, strategy of a filing an appeal in the Supreme Court, telling the judge that he cannot form a commission, that he should recuse himself, him and two others, they ought to recuse themselves. That's one. And of course, the other aspect, which which I feel like has taken the Supreme Court by quite a shock, is the recent legislation on the review of the review of judgments act. I'm forgetting the name of the ordinance right now, but it was passed just the day before yesterday, which speaks about constituting larger benches when hearing review petitions. And that also puts the Punjab elections in complete disarray. So the government has been playing very smart on all ends, not just dealing with the PTI, but also dealing with the Supreme Court, which has been hell bent upon trying to stop the government from all its functionings. And we, of course, yet to see what happens, but it's interesting the way events are unfolding.
Right, and Barrister Safi, I also want to understand that at the same time, when these questions are being raised with reference to the partiality of the judges and the benches, of course, this petition has also been filed by the government. But it seems that, of course, at the end of the day, it is the Chief Justice who is looking into all of these matters. How exactly will there be this process then conducted in terms of what the government is demanding, or how the judges need to excuse themselves from their benches? I don't understand how then the petition is going to materialize if the credibility of the bench even doesn't exist at the moment.
So that's precisely what should happen, right? So in an ideal scenario, the judges should recuse themselves. The Chief Justice should ask for the formation of a new bench and should appoint other judges in his stead and those of two other people. Either they can recuse themselves, because normally, I'll tell you what happens in trial courts. If in the trial court, people have an option of going before a senior judge. So let's say a magistrate or a civil judge is compromised, has some conflict of interest, then we can always go up to the session judge and say that we do not have trust and faith in the partiality of the judge, and we want the case to be transferred. And we transfer cases regularly, because this is something that keeps happening. Unfortunately, with the Chief Justice, there is nobody else that you can go to. That's the highest level. You cannot appeal to someone, so you can only appeal to them themselves and ask them to recuse themselves. There's no other way around it. But presuming that the Chief Justice decides that this is in fact against legal ethics, then he would recuse himself and just form a new bench of other judges. What we see is the same four judges being put in every single important constitutional matter. It's as if it's just those four judges that somehow have an understanding of the law, and nobody else can be trusted by the Chief Justice. And this is why we have this terrible divide in the Supreme Court. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist.
Absolutely, I understand. Farrukh, there is also, of course, the Parliament stance that is making sure that whatever the decision or direction is coming from the Supreme Court, which they don't think is partial and objective, that they reject it. And we've seen similar stances by the parliamentarians earlier as well. Even in the National Assembly, we've heard leaders such as Khawaja Asif speaking about this. But how would you see this situation in terms of the kind of limitations that exist, and how much further can the Parliament actually push back with reference to the Supreme Court's directions? Because like I was talking to Barrister Safi, the Chief Justice, of course, is the same man that is being spoken about or accused of impartiality, and it is the same judiciary that the parliamentarians are also referring to when they raise these objections.
Yeah, he is being accused of partiality, right?
Yes.
But there's something very interesting that I wanted to actually point out. My problem is not being partial only. My question is about competence as well. For example, one constant fixture in this and previous benches is Justice Munib Akhtar. Incidentally, it is the same gentleman who had actually gave you remarkable quotable quotes, like if PSL can take place, why can't there be elections? right? Millions and billions are the same thing, and 3 zeros at the end don't matter. But now, day before yesterday, in a hearing, he made an amazing statement. He said, telling the Election Commission's lawyer, he told him that the civil rights and fundamental rights are the same thing, right? Natha Singh and Prem Singh are same damn thing. Humbly submitting, if a Chief Justice of Supreme Court, who's one day going to be Chief Justice of Pakistan, does not know the difference between the two, then I think that there is no hope in the world, because fundamental rights are bestowed upon us by virtue of birth, and the civil rights are given to you by Constitution. They are not at all the same thing. So when you have this kind of competence, and then Sana, I keep on arguing that if you want to understand how things are, you have to go through all the judgments that have been given by various judges. For example, Justice Mansoor Ali Shah, Maqazi Faizi Shah, umpteen other people that I have praised here. Just go through their judgments and they speak for themselves. You don't need all these stickers or media manipulation or media management, right? But then you go to the judgments written by Justice Ijazul Ahsan, Chief Justice himself, and this gentleman that I was talking about. You will be surprised that there is no, very deep content there. There doesn't seem to be a lot of effort either. So that becomes my problem, because then repeatedly a clock that actually is late or early may not actually understand, or a calculator that is faulty may not understand that it is miscalculating, but then they keep on calculating in the wrong way. Now the concern right now is that amazingly this talk about a trichotomy of power is like come and go room. Every time they need it, it appears, and they shield themselves behind it. Otherwise, there's no trichotomy. The same Supreme Court has suspended the implication or implementation of a a law that has been passed by the Parliament, and their trichotomy of power does not matter. Similarly, they have suspended the executive's order to create this commission, and yet trichotomy of power does not matter there. But of course, when it comes to creation of such commissions, the government is trying to drive a wedge into the relationship among judges. Amazingly, the conduct of Chief Justice, who refuses to empower other justices like senior most puny judge, Justice Qazi Faiz Isa and umpteen others, that does not matter. The way in broad daylight they kept on actually eliminating. I mean, it was an episode of The Island where repeatedly every judge who actually agreed with you, in the next bench they were eliminated. And amazingly, even then, the Chief Justice can actually complain that it is government which is trying to drive a wedge between the justices. If there is no self-accountability, then we are going to have a broken clock, a broken calculator, and a broken bench. And this is what we are seeing, because he wants to play politics, and he holds dear his interest and those people that sit with him, especially in these like-minded benches. Chief Justice has thrice appropriated a national crisis to actually score own points against his own fellow judges, and every time he has done it, he has made the national crisis even worse. And that continues, it will continue. The only thing is, the day he retires, I think 90% of this nation is going to heave a sigh of relief.
Right, and with reference to the parliamentarian stance, do you think that they can still hold their ground irrespective of whatever directions keep coming from the Supreme Court? I just want to understand whether or not the Supreme Court can make things difficult for the parliamentarians.
How?
is there any sort of legal action that can be taken? That's my question.
No, but this is what I'm saying. But the speech on the floor of the House is protected by the law. And then it is the court itself that keeps on talking about, trichotomy of power. So how on earth can a Supreme Court order a parliament to do whatever they want?
Not just a speech, in terms of directions. For example, if we were talking about May 14th in the past, of course, that's still under discussion with reference to the ECP's petition. But if such directions haven't been followed that have been given by the Supreme Court, can the parliament just still continue to do that?
Right. What happens if the parliament continues to do whatever it wants to do? Is the Supreme Court going to actually impeach or the entire parliament? Is it going to, disqualify all the lawmakers in the parliament? I don't think that is possible. I think if they do, in the time when there was, before May 9th, when there was confusion, if they wanted to do, perhaps it would have actually created some kind of schism in the society. I think that right now they have actually hitched their ride with the lot that has already lost. So now even if they try to do these desperate things, they are going to actually undermine themselves and make a spectacle of themselves.
Okay. I believe Rana Saab has also joined us once again on telephone line. Thank you very much, Rana Saab, for being part of the discussion. And we've moved on to the issue with regards to the Judicial Commission and the 5-member bench that's taking a look into it. Of course, the government's petition with reference to the issue with reference to the CJP and the formation of the benches, and the fact that this is going to result in some sort of partiality. I want to understand first your take on that, and then we'll move back to what we earlier were talking about with reference to PTI chairman. Rana Saab, can you hear me? I don't think we've been able to establish contact with Rana Saab, but hopefully if before the show ends we're able to get in touch with him, we'll take his opinion as well. Barrister Safi, I'd point to this similar questions with reference to what is going on, especially with regards to the judiciary and the parliament as well. We keep on talking about how it's the way that the parliamentarians are emerging strong, and the fact that what you were earlier also saying is it's good that they're standing up to whatever they think is unjust. But I want to understand whether or not there can be a certain limit to that in terms of the institutions and the harmony that needs to exist, and whether or not there can be trouble for the parliament.
Right, so Sana, I do believe that there can be trouble for the parliament, and I believe this because the Supreme Court has already created unbelievable trouble for the parliament. We have already seen them do things that are absolutely unthinkable. And at this stage, it's not just the Supreme Court. There are various other institutions of the country. So for instance, the president of the country unilaterally decided to issue election dates and decided that elections were to be held without understanding that his role is a titular role, without any heed whatsoever to what the boundaries of his role entail. He decided that he wanted to announce elections, and to date he is continuing to interfere into political issues, which he cannot legally. This is grounds for impeachment. But he hasn't been impeached by the government, and he continues to serve as a president, continues to do things that are wild, honestly. And the same is the case with the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice has taken it upon himself to become, for some reason, the mediator of Pakistan. I don't understand what went through his mind when he decided that he wants political parties to sit together, how a Chief Justice can even order political parties to sit together and discuss internal politics. For all I know, next he'd be giving judgments saying that, companies, instead of coming to the court, should just resolve the matter amongst themselves. Husband and wife, instead of divorcing, should just sit and resolve matters themselves. So he is left his job of adjudication, which is the core function of the Supreme Court. That's the one thing the Supreme Court is supposed to do, and he's clearly not interested in doing that. But what he is interested in doing is deciding matters like when the elections are to be held, unilaterally once again, deciding how much funds Pakistan has, debating with the State Bank and debating with the Finance Ministry. He's decided that he wants to figure out if Pakistan has any security problems, so he's rejecting statements by the Ministry of Defense. This is once again without any expertise in these matters, without any understanding of what security matters entail, without any understanding of what financial matters entail. And I'll echo something that Farrukh Saab said, that a judge can be known by the judgments they issue. And I think a few of these fellow judges are so intimately aware of their own competence that judges, when they issue a good judgment that they want others to read and want to save it for the posterity of the people, they at the end of their judgment write fit for reporting. And the purpose of writing fit for reporting is so that you report it, it goes into journals, and tomorrow students can study these. Every single judgment that has been given recently, at least by this bench, says not fit for reporting. So even they understand that this is not something that should be part of books. and and the fact that they are intimately aware of what they're doing themselves, and because perhaps they don't want these things to go down in history books. Perhaps they don't want the children of tomorrow to read about these things. Maybe they think that they're doing these things temporarily and right now
Right.
to fix Pakistan.
Absolutely, and that's very interesting. We're short on time. We're going to make a last effort with Rana Saab and see if he can still hear us and contribute something before the show ends. Rana Saab, can you hear me?
I'm available now, sir.
Great, wonderful. I think we're able to hear you. Rana Saab, very quickly, if you can talk about the petition that the government has raised with reference to the 5-member bench regarding the audio leaks, and what I asked earlier as well with reference to the PTI leaders who are leaving the party, whether they're welcome in PML-N or not.
Yes, the government is very late in filing the petition. They should have filed such petitions in the previous matter as well. Because if it's a duty of a responsibility of the honorable judges to adjudicate properly and give justice to the parties, it's also the government duty to press for the justice. Unfortunately, in the previous cases as well, starting from 63A till today, all the judgments which have been given, they have been generating convulsion and a lot of hue and cry amongst the cadres of judiciary and the people who are a little acquainted with the jurisprudence. Because all along in all cases, the real rules of the game have been violated. Unfortunately, if you could remember the explanation and the detail given by Umar, that is an eye-opener about the conduct of our honorable judges. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, they have violated their own code of conduct, which is guaranteed by Article 209 of the Constitution. So, if I don't know, to kufr al-Kaaba barkhizat Khuda Manad Musalmani, once protectors are not serious in protecting the rules of the game, all the game will be fair, unfortunately. And time and again giving the issues to the same judges, I don't think it's legally appropriate. And we must remember, Honorable Chief, also remember, nobody can be judge of his own cause. Once his close relations are there, the parties in these leagues, why should he sit in on these issues? And this is very clear provision of the Code of Conduct. No judge under the law can hear the cases where there is his relations are the party. So therefore, they have to be very cautious, they have to be very careful. The correct decision which the government has taken, government wouldn't have suffered so much had they taken the stance, the right stance they have taken now. It's a belated stance. They have not suffered so much. The country have not suffered so much.
Right, absolutely. And Rana Saab, very quickly, if you can tell us whether or not the leaders of the PTI who are leaving the party are going to be welcomed in the PML-N.
No, this is a decision by the guide of the party that those people will not be accommodated.
All right, absolutely understood. Thank you very much, Rana Saab, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. Thank you, Barrister Safi Ghauri, for being a part of the discussion as well. Thank you, Farrukh, for being part of the debate. As always, that's all that we have from the show. We'll see you tomorrow.